American researchers working in the high mountains of Turkey have uncovered what appear to be hidden tunnels similar to the descriptions of the biblical account of Noah's Ark.
High in the mountains of eastern Turkey, a team of researchers began excavating one of the most controversial archaeological sites on Earth. The location was known as the Durupinar structure, a massive formation many believed could be connected to Noah's Ark.
The team at Noah's Ark's Scans says this is the final resting place of Noah's Ark.
For decades, scientists dismissed the claim as myth. But in 2021, new scans revealed something beneath the mountain that no one could explain. At first, the discovery seemed historic. Then it became disturbing. Radar imaging uncovered organized corridors hidden underground. Some of the scans looked less like geology and more like the blueprint of a massive buried structure. Thermal scans detected unexplained heat inside a sealed chamber. Then investigators captured one final scan. A moving heat signature appeared behind a sealed internal door. Minutes later, authorities intervened. Operations were shut down. Data was confiscated, the site was sealed, and the entire team was ordered to leave the mountain. Tonight, we're breaking down the full story behind the discovery that terrified the excavation team and may have completely changed the meaning of Noah's Ark itself. Because if the reports are true, then whatever was hidden inside that structure may not have been dead at all. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. Let's begin. The ship beneath the mountain. In eastern Turkey, near Mount Ararat, lies a strange formation stretching across the mountainside. From ground level, it looks ordinary, but aerial photographs reveal something impossible to ignore. The outline resembles a massive ship buried beneath the earth. The site became known as the Durupinar structure, and for decades it remained at the center of one of archaeology's biggest mysteries. For decades, believers connected the site to Noah's Ark, while skeptics dismissed it as natural geology. But the mystery never disappeared. In 2021, a Turkish excavation team officially began investigating the site using modern scanning technology. At first, the mission was simple: determine whether the structure was natural rock or something artificial. But the first discoveries immediately raised questions. Soil samples contained traces of marine materials, substances normally found near the sea, not thousands of feet above sea level. Then came the radar scans. Using ground-penetrating radar, the team expected to find fractured rock layers beneath the mountain. Instead, the scans revealed something organized, a massive hollow structure. The deeper the scans went, the more impossible the formation appeared. Then came the discovery that changed the entire excavation. The dimensions of the structure were compared to Genesis 6:15, 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, 30 cubits high. The proportions matched almost perfectly. According to later statements from people connected to the excavation, several members of the team initially believed the radar system was malfunctioning because the structure looked too organized to be natural. Inside the lab, excitement quickly turned into tension because, according to conventional science, a wooden structure that massive should never have survived underground for thousands of years. Some archaeologists argued the team was simply seeing patterns in natural formations, but the engineering data suggested otherwise. The radar reflections were too symmetrical, too consistent. Natural rock formations rarely produce evenly spaced internal divisions. One engineer studying the scans quietly admitted, "Whatever this is, it doesn't look natural." That statement changed the atmosphere immediately, because now the question was no longer whether something was buried beneath the mountain. The real question was, who built it? And what was it actually built for? But the next discovery would make that question even more disturbing. The sealed chamber. As scanning continued, the structure became even more difficult to explain. Inside the formation, researchers identified corridor-like pathways connected by evenly spaced partitions. Everything looked intentional, constructed, engineered, almost like a designed internal layout rather than natural geology. But the real shock came when the team pushed the scans deeper than before. That's when they discovered a sealed chamber hidden inside the structure. At first, it appeared isolated from the rest of the formation, almost as if it had been intentionally separated. Then thermal imaging revealed something impossible. A stable heat signature was coming from deep inside the chamber. The team immediately assumed it was a technical malfunction. Ancient buried structures are supposed to be cold and inactive. But repeated scans confirmed the same result. Same location, same intensity, same thermal pattern. Something inside the chamber was generating heat. The room fell silent, but the heat signature wasn't the discovery that truly frightened the team. The next scans were worse. Certain radar reflections began behaving differently from the surrounding material. Instead of reacting like stone or wood, they produced metallic echoes. The data suggested internal reinforcement, as if metal had been used to strengthen the structure itself. No known civilization from that era should have been capable of engineering something this advanced. One engineer reportedly stared at the scans before quietly saying, "This resembles modern structural design." And suddenly the excavation stopped feeling ancient. It felt advanced, far too advanced. But despite growing concern inside the field lab, the team moved forward. A micro-bore probe was prepared to physically investigate the sealed chamber. The drill entered the outer wall much more easily than expected, almost as if the path inside had already been prepared long ago. Then the instruments reacted. Radiation levels inside the chamber suddenly began rising. Green warnings turned yellow. Yellow turned orange. No one could explain how a sealed ancient structure could produce radiation. But things became even stranger moments later. Pressure sensors inside the chamber began detecting rhythmic fluctuations, almost biological. And according to team members present during the scan, the fluctuations intensified every time the excavation equipment moved deeper into the chamber. That was the moment many researchers reportedly wanted the operation stopped entirely. But the investigation continued. Microscopic samples extracted from the chamber walls revealed a thick coating of pitch, the same sealing material described in Genesis 6:14. But under microscopic analysis, the pitch contained crystal-like formations arranged in strangely organized patterns. One researcher quietly admitted, "This may not have been used only to keep water out." Then a Hebrew scholar studying the findings pointed out something deeply unsettling. The biblical word used for pitch, Kopher, can also imply protection, covering, or containment. And suddenly, the entire excavation took on a completely different meaning. Maybe this structure wasn't built only to preserve life during the flood. Maybe part of it was built to imprison something inside. And according to later reports, the next discovery made that theory impossible to ignore. The final discovery. After the chamber scans, the team deployed a robotic camera into a narrow tunnel connected to the sealed section. What they found there changed the entire investigation. Scattered across the tunnel floor were bones. But these were unlike anything researchers had ever seen. The remains were arranged deliberately, not randomly scattered like debris. One researcher described the layout as a containment pattern. Then the camera moved closer. The anatomy itself was deeply abnormal. The ribs were compressed too tightly for any known mammal. The jaw structure appeared partially reptilian with an unnatural double hinge. The spine curved in a spiral formation unlike any documented species. And according to members of the excavation team, that was only the beginning. DNA testing began immediately. Small tissue fragments were placed into a portable sequencing system while the team watched the monitor in silence. The system failed to match the DNA with any known species. One geneticist finally admitted, "This DNA pattern does not align with any known organism." That statement shook the room, but moments later, another discovery pushed the team even further into panic. Deep claw marks covered sections of the tunnel walls, and the direction of the damage revealed something horrifying. The marks came from inside the chamber, moving outward. As researchers moved deeper into the tunnel, they uncovered strange inscriptions carved into the walls. After digital enhancement, several phrases became partially readable. "Bind the corrupted. Seal them for the fire. Do not open until the day of judgment." These were not warnings. They were instructions. And the tunnel eventually led to the final sealed section deep inside the structure, a massive reinforced door. Unlike the rest of the site, this section appeared heavily fortified. The door was reinforced with pitch, metal plating, and burned-scarred hinges. It looked less like storage and more like containment. Then came the final scan. Researchers performed one last seismic and thermal analysis behind the sealed door. At first, the data appeared stable. Then a faint oscillation emerged on the monitor, rhythmic, consistent, not geological, The room went completely silent. Then the signal suddenly intensified. At that exact moment, thunder echoed across the mountain outside. And according to reports from inside the field lab, the heat signature moved. Not randomly, it changed position and shifted closer toward the inner wall behind the sealed door. Radiation levels spiked again. Several monitoring systems briefly overloaded. And in the final thermal frame captured before the shutdown order arrived, a large silhouette-like mass appeared standing directly behind the chamber wall, motionless, but clearly defined, as if it had approached the door after detecting the excavation team outside. Nobody spoke. Within minutes, authorities shut the excavation down, confiscated the data, and sealed the site permanently. But according to later reports from members of the excavation team, the movement behind the sealed door only began after the drilling started. And if the final reports were true, then the moment the excavation began, whatever was sealed behind that door may have already known they were coming.